Hello everybody, my name is Minh and I'm from Faculty of Foreign Languages of Banking Academy of Vietnam. It is such a pity that I cannot join you for the on-site presentation. So I hope that this virtual presentation is clear enough for you all. And the topic that I would like to discuss today is incorporating target local and international culture into the Vietnamese EFL Tertiary curriculum. My presentation will have 7 main parts. The first part is the introduction, which will be followed by the concept definition and an overview of the Vietnamese EFL tertiary context. The 3 main parts of my presentation today will be discussion of the issue, suggestion for the issue, critical reflection, and finally will be the conclusion. And now let's start with the introduction. As in this topic, we talk about the incorporation of different kinds of culture into our language curriculum, so it is quite interesting to talk about the relationship between language and culture. So to start with, language acts as social and cultural practices, and there are always social, political, and cultural messages embodied in language. Through the use of language, we construct meanings, and our identity is communicated, extended, confirmed, constructed, negotiated, and reconstituted. What's more, as identity is concerned with who we are and with whom we belong to, it also defines what is normal and who is excluded. This differentiates us with the others. However, one thing that should be emphasized is that meaning should not always be divided into sharply contrasted concepts, because these so-called binaries are in a constant process of challenging, negotiating, exchanging, reconstructing, and replacing each other. Therefore, some of the concepts that are going to be used in this presentation, such as native and non-native speakers of English, outer and inner circle English, Western cultures and Vietnamese cultures, are considered to be in a dynamic and fluid status rather than being considered as fixed concepts. And now let's go on. And to continue, language teaching cannot be separated from culture teaching as claimed by many linguists. And now here comes a very interesting question that I would like to discuss in my presentation. The question is that what kind of culture should be exploited in EFL learning materials so that language learners can achieve communicative competence? And the argument I would like to develop in this presentation is that there should be a combination of local, target, and international cultures in the Vietnamese EFL tertiary curriculum. Now let's come to the concept definition. So we just talked about the different types of culture: local, target, and international culture. So now let's take a quick look at the definition. So according to Cortazzi and Jean, local culture refers to the student's native culture. The target culture is the culture where the target language is used as the first language, like American, British, or Australian culture. International culture refers to the different varieties of culture from both English and non-English speaking countries, such as France, Spain, Venezuela, etc. And now let's come to an overview of the Vietnamese EFL tertiary context. In Vietnam, English replaced Russian as the main foreign language at schools in the early 1990s. The rise in status of English also means that mastery of English will help a person with their education and employment opportunities. Most jobs required a certificate of English, and competence in English could facilitate a person's chances of work promotion. As a result, the teaching of English receives much attention from the government, the public, teachers, as well as students. Regarding the higher education sector, Vietnam's higher education reform agenda, a plan approved by the government of Vietnam in 2005, stated that improvements in teaching and learning foreign languages, especially English, should be achieved, and the purpose of which is to build up a more internationally integrated higher education system. So, yeah, this is the first point about the Vietnamese EFL tertiary context. And now let's talk about the materials for English learning. Regarding the materials for English learning, tertiary EFL teachers have more flexibility in choosing the materials for their teaching in contrast with secondary school EFL teachers. In Vietnam, it is the fact that a series of official nationwide textbooks is written for the teaching of English at secondary schools, while the university EFL teachers have more freedom in selecting the materials they would like to develop for their teaching. And the third point that I would like to talk about the Vietnamese EFL tertiary context is that, generally speaking, Vietnamese EFL tertiary curriculum sees the greatest power of the target culture. And that would be the main point of the discussion today. And this will be discussed more thoroughly in the next part, discussion of the issue. So it can be said that the Vietnamese EFL tertiary curriculum sees the dominant position of the target culture, and it is reflected in two main ways. The first way is through EFL learning materials, and the second way is in the Vietnamese EFL teachers' mindset. And now let's talk about the EFL learning materials. So we can see that most of English textbooks are from American, British, Canadian or Australian publishers. And these authors intentionally or unintentionally pass on their beliefs, customs, values and lifestyles to the non-native language learners through the content presented in the English textbooks. As a result, when learning English with the EFL materials from the target culture, the learners are exposed to the world of artifacts, concepts, beliefs and values of these countries. And the second way that the dominant position of the target culture is reflected is through the Vietnamese EFL teachers' mindset. So to many Vietnamese teachers, the target culture and language embodied the standards English. And these teachers often think that what is given in the inner circle textbooks is better than their locally designed textbooks. So, what are the problems that might arise from these two problems? From the issue of the dominant position of the target culture in the EFL learning materials and in the teacher's mindset. Now, let's talk about some of the arising problems. So first of all, when only the target culture is introduced in EFL learning, the first problem that might arise is the promotion of native speakerism. So, native speakerism is an essentialist view that has proved its weaknesses by looking at Western culture as superior and local culture as inferior. And the second problem that arises from the issue is the students' low achievement and lack of interest in learning. So, as illustrated above, when only target culture is introduced in EFL learning, the dissonance between the practices, values and beliefs of the presented target culture and the learner's own cultural backgrounds can arise, and to some linguists, to some researchers, this can result in students' low achievement and lack of interest in learning. So, we can see some of the problems that could arise from the dominant position of the target culture. And The argument or the suggestion I would like to develop in my presentation is that we should incorporate target local and international culture into our EFL curriculum. And now let's talk about some of the main reasons for this incorporation. So the first reason is that this incorporation can facilitate foreign language learning and students' self-expression. So first of all, according to the culture-specific schema theory, there has been proof about the connection between the students' learning success and their prior experience. Some researchers claim that when learners learn with something they feel familiar with, they show better mastery of the language. And in addition, when the students have the chance to learn with their local culture and also the international culture, students can take an active part in presenting their own cultural customs, values, and beliefs to the outside world. And this can also contribute to the changing identities of the expanding circle speakers. So instead of being viewed as the sole receiver of information, they can be the active presenters of their own values, of their own customs to the world. And the second reason for the incorporation is that this incorporation can help celebrate local and global identities. So the incorporation can diminish the singular power of the target culture in EFL materials. And now, so in this globalization era, inner circle countries should not occupy the dictating power of imposing their cultural habits on global international norms and requirements. Due to the increasingly overwhelming number of non-native speakers, transactions among non-native speakers of English occur more often than with native speakers. And as a result, the norms of behavior of the target culture should not influence non-native speaker communicative exchanges. And in this way, this incorporation can reflect the changing identities of the English speakers. And now, outer and expanding circle countries can celebrate their own identities as legitimate users of English and contribute to making EFL cultural world more diverse. And now let's come to the third reason for this incorporation. This incorporation can provide teachers with a vast repertoire of cultural content when selecting and designing teaching materials. So now teachers are not limited to a strict range of learning materials that features only the target culture. They can have freer choice in selecting the materials that feature their local culture, as well as choosing materials that describe the international culture. And in this way, it can make EFL lessons better fit into the socio-cultural context of Vietnam. And now let's come to the fourth reason for this incorporation. This incorporation can promote students' intercultural competency by giving students opportunity to reflect on cultural differences. So as CQ claims, an intercultural speaker should have the ability to gain an insight into other cultures and at the same time being able to inform other speakers about their own culture. And multicultural knowledge allows learners to have contrastive perspective in which the knowledge about the other can be linked and can be compared with the knowledge about the self. And after talking about the main reasons for the incorporation of the target local and international culture into the Vietnamese EFL curriculum, there are several recommendations that I would like to give. and this will be in the sixth part. It is critical reflections, and first of all, it is in terms of the country's national language policy. So the country should have the policy so that its people, its learners, can appreciate the importance of English and at the same time value their own national identities. And we can take some examples. We can take some examples of some famous successful countries regarding this issue. The first example is Japan. So in Japan, there is a national theme for language learners, and so the theme that runs through the official document about learning English is that English mastery, in order to master English, they should have the understanding of the Japanese uniqueness. So it is stressed that in order to learn English well, Japanese students must first master the Japanese language and develop a sense of the Japanese self. And the second example I would like to illustrate today is an example of Korea. So as for Korea, they have the maxim, in order to win, know your enemy better. Korea believes that good command of English can contribute to the understanding of the world's most powerful countries, which can help Korea to succeed in the globalization process. So, for the Vietnamese national language policy, we can learn from the successful countries regarding their language policies and develop a scheme, a plan that can help its people appreciate the importance of English and at the same time value their own national identities as well as having an understanding of the international countries. And so, in order to do this, they should have clear guidelines regarding material development and textbook design. And this guideline should stress a careful selection of the target, multicultural content, together with the presentation of the local culture into our curriculum. As the curriculum embodies the cultural values that the Vietnamese students are expected to obtain, the long-term and well-planned curriculum designing projects should be carried out for the desired cultural values to be reflected in the curriculum. And the second part in the critical reflections is in terms of the Vietnamese Efl Tertiary teacher. So first, it should be stressed that cultural teaching should be implemented in the language classroom, and cultural teaching is not limited to the mere presentation of cultural facts. It should be extended to the cultural values, beliefs, and practices, and the teacher should act as the cultural mediator by encouraging students to relate to other cultures through drawing upon their cultural customs, beliefs, and practices. And also, a sole reliance on the textbook is, of course, not always recommended. And the learning materials should be selected and presented in a principled and logical way. And finally, last but not least, teaching culture in language is not a short-term matter. Therefore, teachers should always be aware of this inherent responsibility and invest substantial time for the material selection phase, the lesson planning stage, as well as the implementation process. And now let's come to the conclusion. So far we've discussed the issue of the Vietnamese EFL tertiary curriculum, with the dominant problem is the domination of the target culture in our curriculum, and also it has proved some of the weaknesses, and we have also suggested some of the recommendations. So now to conclude. First, it must be said that English language teaching is not a neutral issue. There are always political, cultural, and social values embedded in any EFL curriculum. As a result, choosing appropriate cultural content for English teaching plays a big role in shaping the right image of the curriculum. Through the presented ideas, once again, I would like to stress the main part of this presentation is that we should aim at a balanced combination of target local and international culture, and this combination, this incorporation has been shown to have regained voices of our national identity while recognizing the importance of English. And language learners need to be equipped with a good sense of cultural awareness, which can help them communicate beyond their cultural boundaries. And finally, the appreciation of one's own culture, together with the recognition of the importance of the target and international cultures that is reflected in the national language policy as well as classroom practices, will have English language teaching in the Vietnamese tertiary context achieve that goal. And this has brought me to the end of my presentation, and thank you for your listening, and thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions regarding this topic, please feel free to contact me at the email address tubuy@gmail.com. And thank you so much, and I hope that you have a wonderful day and a very good time at the conference. Thank you.